Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video we are going to use this problem from the Leetcode is Design Spreadsheet. So this problem is very important from the perspective when you are going for the interview because it's a design problem, right? So the question saying that a spreadsheet is a grid with 26 columns and level from A to Z, and given a number of rows, each cell in the spreadsheet can hold an integer value between 0 and 10 to the power 5. So the implementation of the spreadsheet class is, let's suppose we have very first we are passing one argument is number of rows. It initializes the spreadsheet with 26 columns and level from A to Z, and a specified number of rows. It is also saying all cells are initially set to 0, and there is another method that takes cell and value that will set the cell value. Okay, and it is saying it sets the value of the specified cell, and the cell reference is provided in the format of AX, we can say A, or that is A1 we can say, and B10 we can also say. Okay, like that. So X could be any number, we can say that, like 1 and 10, right, where the letter represents the column where A to Z, and the number format is represented as one based row, right? We can say that. Another we have is reset cell. So we have to reset the cell, that is we will provide, and we'll set the value as a 0. Similarly, we have the get value, and we have the formula to evaluate what is the value at this index, and we'll do x plus y, and we can uh, say where x and y either cell represents reference or non-negative integers, and return the computed value, we can say that as a sum. That is a get value, we can say that. So if get value reference a cell that has not been explicitly set using the cell value, it means its value is considered as a 0. Let's understand examples so it will be clear. Very first, these are the operations we have to imply, and if you see, very first we are getting 3, then we have is get value, we are calling get value, so we have initialized the spreadsheet, and get value we are using x plus y, we can say 5 plus 7, then we are setting the value, let's call we are setting the value here, again we are getting the value, like this we are operating all the value here. So output is coming like this, because very first if you initialize it, means 3 row and 26 column will happen when you call the get value, right? 5 plus 7 is 12, will return 12, and again we'll do the set value, right? We will not get anything when we call the get value. We'll do return because A1 contains 10 and this is 6, so we can say okay, give the value here, like this we will implement it here. Okay, let's come back to the constant. Constant is given like this. Okay, rows is greater than equal to 1, less than 10 to the power of 3, and value is greater than equal to 0, less than equal to 10 to the power of 5, like that we have given. It is also saying the formula is always in the format x plus y, and this is what we have given, and each cell consists of capital letter A to Z that we know, and rows between 1 to rows, at most cell 10 to the power 4 calls. Okay, there will be these methods will be there. Okay, so let's try to understand the problem. Very first, you have given a tiny spreadsheet. Okay, let me tell you how. What I'm saying, like what we have given a tiny spreadsheet that is having 26 columns, we can say that, and these columns are A to Z, correct? This is what we have given, and it is also said that we have given a number of rows we have given, right? What we have given, number of rows, we can say that we have given. So each cell has store cell stores got non-negative integers, we can say, and default value is 0, right? If we talk about the cell value, right, cell value, it will store what? 0 by default value. Okay. And what we need to implement, we have to implement this method spreadsheet 3. We can say, let's suppose 3 is the rows, means as you can see 3 rows we have to implement it, correct? And then we have 26 columns we have given, that is what we have already given, means this spreadsheet is having 26 columns A to Z, and the number of rows will be given. Okay. Next we have some values we have. Let's suppose get method we have, set method we have, right? Get value we have, right? These are the methods we have given, we have to write. Let's suppose get value, right? Then we are getting what? 5 plus 7. Set cell value, right? Add a1, add the value 10. Next get value means a1 and plus 6. a1 we have set 10 and we are getting the value what? 6. 10 plus 6 is 16, right? We are getting the 16 value here. Like that we have given similarly here, that we have to implement it here. Okay. Let's talk about this example, how this example works, right? Very first, let's suppose we only draw column A and B. Okay. So we'll say, okay, there is 2 column is there, A and B, right? And what are the rows are there? Let's call row is 1, 2, 3. These are the rows we have, and all other we can say uh, values we can take as a 0. Let's start at all 0, we can say that. Let's start at 0 0, like this we can say. Can we say that? The very first step, it is saying call the get value. When we call the get value, means what? 5 plus 7 we are talking about, right? Let's evaluate it, right? So if you evaluate it, right, it will give you what? 5 plus 7 is what? Is 12. So no cell has been used here, correct? Next, in the very first step, we have called the get value and we get what? 12, correct? And we know that there is no cell value has been used. In step 2, let's suppose what we have is set value. Here we are having what? A1 and 10. So here what we will do, we have give me 1 second. We have here is we are setting the value. So this is our A1. So we'll set this value. A1 is 1 0 because we have set the value. So we have set the value A1 0, right? A1 as a 10 that we got from here. Next, in step 3, let's suppose we have a get value, right? At there we have do what? A1 plus 6, and we know that A1 having 10 and 6 we are adding, so this is nothing but 16. Okay, it's fine. Next it is saying B2 should be 15, means we are setting the value. So B2, it means what? We are talking about this one. So if B2 is 15, so we have to update it. So we have to update. So this value you have updated. Okay. So next we are calling this value. In the next step we are calling what? A1 plus B2. A1 is 10 and B2 is 15. We know that. So if we'll do the sum, we'll get what? 25. Again. Next at step 6 we have is what? Step 6 we have reset the value, right? When we call the reset cell, right, we have to pass the cell number. Let's call the cell value we have is A1. At A1, if we reset the value, means we have to set the value as a 0. So wapis you will go there and you will put here 0. You will not do anything. You will return the value, reset the value again, right? So next step is what? this is done. Okay, so all the value we have completed here, right, like that. Next we will reset the value, then we'll again evaluate the value a1 and b2 like that. So let's suppose again you will go here and you will call the get value. Okay, when you do the get value at a1 plus b2, that is the last value we have. Okay, so a1 we know that 0, b2 is 15, we'll get what, 15. This is what we have given, all these steps we have given to implement it, right? I hope you understand. This is our spreadsheet that we have implemented, and we have tried to understand. Okay, this is your a1, a1, b1, a2, b2, a3, b3. This is very tiny spreadsheet we have seen. This is what we have to implement. So try to understand what we need to do. Okay, because if you'll talk about the intuition, because cell only store numbers, right? As you have seen, these are the cells, and this cell value only stores what, numbers, and formula are only provided to when we are calling the get value, right? And it is the simplest value, we can say that, right? So the fastest approach that we can implement for this problem is we'll keep a internal 2D array, we can say. Let's call we have a 2D array like this, and we'll store the value, right? Let's call we have the cell, and each cell we have a row, and each row we have is a 26 of the characters. So this is called our 2D array, we can say 2D array, we can say that, and we'll keep it here. So rows up to, we can say up to thousands, we can assume it's a tiny, right? So these cells can be set cell and reset cell. Simply we'll write the 2D array in O of 1 time, we can say that we will write it into the cell. When we call the get value, we have to parse the formula, and we'll say x plus y that we have seen, right? We are doing here. So for each operand, if it begins with the upper letter A, we can say capital A to Z, will treat as a cell reference column character, right? And another value will consider as a parse int, and remaining will do remaining -1, we can say that, right? Means if we'll talk about a1, right, means a is a cell value, right? Column. So a is, we can say, let's call a, if we have a, means this is our column, and column should be treated as char minus a. So char minus a will get from the sky value will get, and this is become what, our column. Similarly, if we talk about the row, this is our 1. So here we'll say, okay, very first parse this value. If we'll parse this value, let's do parse int, and we'll say parse int of remaining. This is called remaining, and we'll do -1. We'll get the row and column. Now, if we'll talk about returning, so at the time of return, okay, we have to return what, cell, and we'll pass what, the row we will pass, and we'll pass the column. Are you understanding? If it is coming 0, if never set this value, right? Otherwise we'll get some value here. Otherwise we'll pass the int and we'll return it. Okay, and in the last we'll do the sum and we'll return it, because we need to do the sum, and we'll return it. So this way we'll get the operation of 1 time when we do the parsing of the length operands, and it still give you the constant bounded by its input size. It will fit the constraint that we have given, and we'll do the common implementation pattern parsing, we can say that. Let's try to understand through the writing the code. So this is what we have given. We have given a split class, we have given this constructor to initialize the spreadsheet. Then we have set cell where we have to pass the cell and the value. Then we have reset cell where we have to pass the cell value, cell name. We will reset that. Then we have get value where we will do the sum, right, and we'll return the answer. Okay, so let's implement it. Very first thing, that what are the things we required, right, for all these methods, right? So we need the rows, column, and the cells, right? So let's define it here. Let's call it private and give final, because it's a class level we'll define, right? And we'll say, okay, this is our rows. Then similarly we'll write private final int, and we'll call this false. Okay, and we'll give 26. Okay, you can give rows and calls, so we'll say rows. Okay, these are our rows and these are our calls. Okay, similarly we'll define int, we'll give the private first, private final, and we'll give int. This is our 2D array that we were talking about, and this is our nothing but cells. So these things we have given. Okay, let us define in the small all rows, calls. To understand the rows and calls, right? And we have the cell value. Three things we have to define. So rows will be given because this will be initialized at the time of here. That is why I have not written here rows like this. Column will be always 26 because this is a tiny spreadsheet. But for the rows will be given at the time of calling. Let's suppose the runtime, because as you see, we have given only rows to initialize the spreadsheet. That is why I'm saying it's tiny spreadsheet, right? So to initialize this, we know that this our uh, rows we have to initialize, and we'll say okay, just initialize it. Similarly, we'll initialize the cell value, cell, and we'll say okay, initialize new int, and write rows, and similarly for the columns. So by default, what we are doing here, we are putting the default value in the cell is 0 because this is our integer type, right? So we have initialized our cell, right? If let's suppose, as per example that we have talked about, if rows we are passing 3 when we are calling the spreadsheet. Let me tell you how. When we are calling this one a spreadsheet 3, means we are calling what? A spreadsheet 3 here, right? And this will get the column, and you will initialize here what is 3, and this will be your 26, means 3 into 26, remember? So very first I have taken A, then we have taken B, right? Two columns we have taken, right? And we have started with the row 1 2 3 4 5 like that, and rest of the column we have treated as a 0 default. Remember the previous example that I have talked about. So here we have talked about, let's suppose number of rows is how many? Number of rows is 3. So we have started 0 1 and 3, right? So this is 0 1 and 2, means 3 rows we have taken. And for the column we know that 26 will be there, right? So I have taken 1 and 2. Rest of the things we have not taken, so we can assume that there are multiple are there to A to Z, we can say, right? A B C, like that we will go till Z will go. Okay, so that is I'm talking about here. So it will become, rest of the thing will come what? 0 after AB, means we know that everything will come 0. So we'll initialize it as a 0, we can say that. Okay, I hope you understand. Okay, then what we need to do, we have to parse the value, right? If we'll not parse this value, the cell value, then it will become difficult for us because we are doing the setting and these things, right? So we have to implement. What we need to do, we need to create a method. Let's call this is our helper method, we can say. Okay, let's call this private int an array, and we'll pass we have to parse the cell. So we'll say okay, give the name is a parcel reference method. Okay, where we have to pass the string and the reference we have to pass. What this method will do, we have to extract the value. Let's suppose you are having a reference like you can say is A1. Okay, at that time, very first you have to find the column character. What is the column? Char. So column char you will get by how? We'll say, okay, give the reference name, and at char at you will call at 0, and you will get the character, correct? That is, you will get A here. Means what you will get? You will get A here. Then if you want to find the column, you need to find what? Call equal to call char minus what? A, and you will get the column here. Okay, now similarly you have to find the row, and to find the row you just need to do what? Integer dot parse int, and you have to pass what? The reference, and substring you will do, and you will get 1, and you will pass -1. Okay, so here it is a 1 based index, right? 1 indexed in input, correct? So we have to -1. Now we have to return the value also. So say new int, right? And this is our row and column pair we have to pass. I hope you understands this problem, why we have used this one. So whenever we pass this, you should return the pair of row and columns. Understand? Let's talk about the next method that we have given is set cell, right? So when we call the set cell here, you need to find what? We have the cell and value. We'll say, okay, give me the row and column. How will you find the row and column? We just implemented this one parse method, right? So this parse method we need to find pass here, where we need the reference. What is the reference here? Cell is the reference, so we'll pass the cell here. Okay, now we have to update the particular cells. Let's call, we are giving the name cells, and at here we'll implement what is our row. We can go get the row at where? At 0. And similarly we have to find the column. So when we are going to find the column, we'll say, okay, this is our row. Now you find the column for RC, and you will find the column at 1. So row and column we are passing, because as you see, row is at index 0 and column is at 1. So we will pass the cell at a row and column, right? And you have to set the value here. We'll say, okay, pass the value here. Like this, you have to set the value. Similarly, if we'll talk about the reset value, so again you have to find the reset cell value, because this is what we have given, right? And when we are setting the value, at that time you will just not, we don't have any value here, means what we need to find? We have to pass the value 0. I hope you understand. Next is we have the get value. So this is very easy. Just think that we have a formula, we can say, and formula format is guaranteed like this. Is what it is saying? We have is equal to x plus y. This is what we have given. If the formula is guaranteed, means what we need to do? We have a, let's call the, we have a string, and we'll call this as a body. If string body we have, we'll say, okay, let's call the formula, let's call this formula, this is the same formula we are passing here, and we'll say, okay, get the substring. Substring will call, substring is a method, string method, will pass 1. It means what we are trying to do here? we want the body only. So we are uh, dropping we can say equal to. It means we want only x plus y, right? We want only this part, not this part. Okay. So here what we need to do, we have to pass the, let's call the string. String should be called as a parts we can say, where we'll get the part. How we are getting the part? Let's call the, we have the body, and body we have to split based on two things plus. Let's suppose maybe there will be a space, so we'll say okay, based on the plus sign you return it. Okay, I hope it should work. And it is coming in the red color. Let's see. Then we'll say okay, return. We'll take one. We have to get the value. To get the value, we'll say okay, let's call the value of a rands. We'll create this method, don't worry, and we'll say okay, parts at 0. Let's trim it, right? So once we will get this value, we just need to trim. So let's trim here itself. Okay, so we'll trim it. Similarly, we have to get for the x and y, to get for the y also. Here we will write what? 1. I hope this is what we have to do. Only thing is that we have to define the operands. So let me write the method name. This is the method we have to pass, and we'll give the method name as a helper method. So we'll say private int method, and define this method. We have to pass a string where we have to do the operation, right? To get that, we have to return the integer. So we'll say okay, if op dot length, the operand length is, let's suppose its length is this is string, right? So we'll say equal to 0. So we'll return 0. Otherwise, find the character. We'll say what is the first character? First character will get at where? op dot char at, and we'll pass what is 0. Gotcha. Then we'll check okay, if the first is greater than equal to by value of a, in that case, and first is less than equal to z, right? What should happen? In that case, we have to find, let's call the pair rc, and we'll call the same method parse cell reference. This was the method we have created earlier, right? And we'll pass the operation string, and we'll return the cells, and we'll say okay, at rc at 0 we have some value, the row. Again we'll say rc at column is 0, return this cell value, right? And in the else condition we'll say okay, otherwise what we'll do, just return integer dot parse int, and you pass the operation string op. I hope it should work. So what we are trying to do here, we know the get value, we have the formula, right? And we know that the string is coming what? X plus y. Very first we'll drop the this value, right? We'll get this value x plus y, and equal to, we will drop it. So we have drop it here. So we'll get the body is a x plus y. After this we will split based on this x, right? Plus, so we'll split it. So we'll get what? a string we will get parts, and the string will become like what? It will become like we have a array. At here we have x, and another at here we have y. Like that it will look like. Okay, the parts. Very first we have to find the value of this x. So we will trim this value, right, and we'll get here. So when we are calling here, it means at here we are calling what? We are calling one string x or y. Okay, this is our operations. Means operation is nothing but what? X or y, we can say that. When we'll say if the length is equal to 0, it means sometime it may happen it is coming 0, so we'll return 0. Then if character is already there at index, we know that there is only one element is coming, so we'll get from the index, right? We'll get the first character because we need the first character itself. Let's say if it is greater than equal to a, right, or and it is less than equal to z, means we are checking the boundary conditions, right? In that case you will get the RC using this parse formula, right? We'll pass the operand, right? You remember this method where we used to pass this as a cell value, right? When we call the cell value, right, we are getting the row and column. Remember, this is what we need to do here, because x is nothing. X is nothing but a1 and a2, b1, b2. These are the columns we'll call, right? Because we have to pass these two columns. X means nothing but we can say, let's suppose for example is nothing but we can say a1, this could be b1, this could be c1, like that we can say that, right? Similarly for the y also. I hope you understand. That is why we call this operand, because we know that there is a possibility that here values will come this one, or we can say a1, b1, c1, anything we can is possible, right? This is why we will call this value. So here you will get the row and the column, right? That is why we are returning row and column. If not, if this is not coming, so we'll just return the operand value here, right? And we'll do the parse value, parse of the operand. So whatever the value will be there, you will return the value as a operand here, and it will return it here. I hope you understand. So very first what we have done, we have implemented the rows, columns, because rows will be given at the time of initializing the spread. We are taking column only 26 letter A to Z, and this is our cell where we'll initialize the value, or will be 0. Okay, and you know the parse method we have created, then set value we have created, reset value we have created, then get value, and this is our operand value we have created. Okay, this is what we have created. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, here. Okay, reference dot caret. Refer dot caret. What happened here? Let me check again. Typo or something. Okay, now we have add row, line number 15. It is saying not -1. Why? Okay, I got it. It should be outside, right? First we'll parse it, the parse method will get, and then we'll do minus. Okay, so the code is working fine, guys. Okay, so code will work fine. Very good. The submission is also working. Okay, let me recap it here. Okay, very first we have initialized rows, columns, cells, then we have a spreadsheet initialized, then we have parse cells we have created, right? Then set cell we have created, then reset cell we have created, then we have the get value we have created, right? And then we have what? Value of operands, where we'll get the length, and these things we'll do. Let me, so now I have formatted this so it will be clear, visible to you. This method you have to understand very clearly. Okay, but the rest of the things is very important, right? So just as you can see, we have what we get the operands, right? Once you get the operand, you will split it, then you will call these values, right? The trim value will call, and this method will give you the it will return the row and columns. Otherwise you will return directly the operands value. Okay, this is what we need to do. Thank you guys, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one, and for now, okay, bye bye. I'll see you in the next one.